Hi everyone, welcome back. It's the Great Griff, joined again by Peter Chesbrough, and we're linking up for the first time in a while. It's been a while, hasn't it, Pete?
That has indeed.
Yeah,
You had a lot to do, didn't you, at the live event?
yeah, yeah, which was fantastic. All the talks are up on the Britain's Hidden History channel.
Yeah, they're fab as
Anyone
well.
who missed and wants to have a look at what went down, it's absolutely fantastic. Um, but today we're going to talk about Avalon, and I'm not here to sort of take anything away from what anybody believes about what they think it may be. We're just having an open conversation. Um, but that little picture on the right there of Yoda's head should indicate to you where you. I
Where you might be leaning towards today.
yes, absolutely.
Nah, we're just gonna roll with it, aren't we, and
Yeah,
see what
absolutely.
comes up.
Okay, so Avalon, where is it? If we ask mythologists like Joseph Campbell, he'll say it's actually everywhere and nowhere. The earthly paradise, that place, or rather that condition of the experienced world, where the transcendent radiance of that which is beyond is from made visible and from within the form of all things. So, so Campbell's, painting that picture that it's kind of state of being, right? That we go. So
Mm.
that's his view. James Bromwick, who's 19th century historian, focuses in a little bit more on the geography of Britain, and it will say that the Welsh Avalon, or the island of apples, the everlasting source of the elixir of life, it's the home of Arthur. Um, but he says it lies beyond Cardigan Bay and the Announ. So Cardigan Bay and the Announ are kind of simultaneous in the thing, and the Announ is a really important thing to talk about, I think,
Mm.
when we're looking at Welsh stories, because you've got this metaphysical and this physical which are so interwoven. It's kind of, you have to understand the kind of mythological as well as the physical with it. What do you think to that,
Mm.
Peter?
Yeah, no, I think you're bang on.
Yeah,
And I think um, there's no reason that the two are like in any way exclusive, and that in as much as that a real place, like a solid place, which can actually be found as well in Wales, or anywhere else in Britain or the British Isles for that matter, can also be that magical place and that
yeah,
metaphysical place. Like, um, the way they looked at the landscape must be completely different to the way we do. Um,
yeah,
and I think because of that, anything is really possible.
yeah. Great, fantastic. um, so I think Avalon first appears with Geoffrey of Monmouth, as far as understanding what's written down is concerned, right? So
Mm,
we go to Geoffrey of Monmouth, who gives us Avalonius, which is Avalon or Avalach,
mm.
which understood Avalach is the um, island of apples. And I've if you break down the words Aval and Ach, it actually translates as apple lineage, or lineage of the apple, if you will. Which, bear that in mind, and I'll come back to that.
Yeah, lineage. That's important. I'd never heard that before. I've
Yeah,
heard a lot
yeah,
of things said about that word, but that's a new
yeah.
one on me. Great.
Well, yeah, I just sort of cracked out the 1688 dictionary, like I do when in doubt with all things
Yeah, yeah.
with the language, and that's what it gave.
Mm,
But Avalon, you can also break down Avalon and Aval, and you can get ONG, and it can give apple corner or apple angle,
yeah.
which is another interesting thing.
Court
So,
angle. Oh, interesting.
yeah,
Um, uh, the one I always remember as well is Avalanche being like a Welsh form of Valentia or Valen or God, what's the word? What's the name? It's not Valentin. The Latin
Right.
version, or Valentia, as in the Scottish province or the Northern province there as well.
Okay.
I think that's in Artorius Rex Discovered.
Right.
They sort of, because that book puts like often several opposing ideas against each other, and then they might eventually sort of come down to one which they think is the most likely. But they give a couple of suggestions for Avalon, I think, in that book, and one of them is that part of Scotland is Valentia, I think. But
Fantastic.
obviously with Wilson and Blackett, as they kept on researching, they always updated their ideas as new evidence came to light, and synchronicities sort of came together. So, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's in Artorius Rex Discovered. But that book is excellent. I love that book. It's like a little like maze of ideas and like and thing. Oh, it's absolutely crazy. Anyway, carry on.
Bro, fantastic.
I got excited then.
Bro, so Tony Sutherland gives us his definition of Avalon as well, and he says the same thing. First mentioned with Geoffrey of Monmouth, where Arthur is taken after the Battle of Camlan to be healed by Morgan Le Fay. And Morgan Le Fay, as I understand it, in Geoffrey is she's in charge of Avalon and in charge of the healing arts there. Insula Avalonis means Isle of Fruit or apples or trees. In later Welsh texts, it is Innis Avalon or Avalach, right? May be linked to Irish legends concerning a main Avalach in a mythological island paradise identified with the Isle of Man or Arran. So there's something my dad said about the Isle of Man being a location as well. And ties in with possibility of Anglesey or Holyhead being related, is that you've got the proximity in the saying of Mon and Man as well. So the Isle of Man.
Yeah, do you know what? I was wondering about that the other day. I was sort of going to ask you about that, if there's any.
Yeah.
Is this have you read anyone sort of noting that before, or?
I haven't read anyone, but
No, it'd be interesting to have a dig.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It definitely would. I'll look out for it because it just came up in conversation the other day.
Like they're twin islands almost, like
yeah,
siblings.
You can understand how if someone's trying to describe an island in the Irish Sea, and that island Mon in the middle of the Irish Sea or towards the Irish Sea, at least it's like they're becoming in proximity. So you can see how that possibility is there. So here's what I mean about it's kind of this intermixture of the myth and the reality, right? In terms of the unknown, in talking about St. Illid and where he's buried, right? So in the genealogy of the saints, he says, right, okay, so he's a man of Israel who came to Britain in the 1st century to aid the building of the British Apostolic Church, right? Resided in Avalon to rest. So it's very sort of pragmatic, reality. He's a man of Israel. He came to Britain to establish a church, resided in this supposedly mythic place, right? And it's like you're left to interpret where that is, kind of by this. If you're an outsider, I guess the sort of understanding of where Avalon is, because Avalon seems to be this magical place of healing and rejuvenation and rest. Yet you've got historical accounts of people going there, so it's interesting
and living there. Yeah,
right. Yeah. Exactly. So and also in Geoffrey we've got Arthur. I looked in Sir Thomas Mallory's Arthur, right, to try and find references to Avalon, and there's 2 references, and it's right, it's not many in.
Oh, really?
That there's not many, but it's got that the idea that he goes there after Camlan, basically. It just Avalon appears right at the end after Camlan, so he goes to Avalon to rest.
Yeah.
But it's also said to be where Caliburn or Excalibur is made. So there's kind of
so there's industry on the island.
industry.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So I don't think you're going to have industry on a really small island.
No.
What do you think to that?
No.
Yeah. So when the great king was close to death, he was spirited away on a barge to the mystical Isle of Avalon, accompanied by 3 mysterious maidens dressed completely in white. Many said he died and was buried upon the isle, yet there are those who believe that Arthur's soul is not to be found among the dead. And it said that he only sleeps and one day he will return. So this links in with the prophecy of Mad Darrigan, which I guess starts with Arthur in the canon, which is like this great hero king who becomes the savior of the legacy of the future of the Britons. And there's four people in history who have been, well, there's 5 technically, but I'm only counting 4 of people who've been given the Mad Darrigan title. The fifth was Henry VIII, who gave it to himself under the
classic Henry move.
Classic Henry, exactly. Under the advice of John Dee, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And we've got this pre-Raphaelite painting by Edward
could I just can we go back to that one a second?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, so in an association now with Joseph of Arimathea, this is the first time where we bring Glastonbury into the equation, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
Because now we've got, because if we associate it with Joseph of Arimathea, then it's going to have an association with Glastonbury, or at least this place, Glastonbury, which is Glastonbury has sort of usurped the title of, and quite well recorded as well. I just read Barbara and Pickett's Legacy of Arthur, and they go into a real thorough debunking of Glastonbury as Glastonbury. So that was one point. And was there something else as well? Sorry, you've jumped forward again. Oh yeah. Oh right, nice. Okay, right.
I wanted to add this in there now.
Yeah, absolutely, brilliant. Yeah, fantastic.
So I guess this is where that kind of hijack or usurpation starts, which is with the Doomsday book, it gives rise to a kind of mythological focal point onto Glastonbury, the area of Glastonbury.
Yeah, and this I love this 1,900 acres of marshy cluster of miniature islands. What a fabulous gift!
Yeah,
that's one I've never got. They just gave them a load of bog. Great.
Fantastic.
I mean, I'm sure it might have been like fen and stuff is good for hunting, and there's like game birds and things like that. But yeah, I think if Arviragus gave Joseph of Arimathea 12 hides of land, I don't think he gave him 12 hides of bog. If I'm honest, that's one that's always made no sense to me. Yeah,
indeed. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Sorry, what was there? Can we just go back to number 4 again?
Yeah, of course we can. Yeah.
We said about the forges and this industry. So it's not just sort of some mythical healing island. There's people living and working and making stuff on there. Yeah. Oh, and the last point was just this choice of word of a barge. If that is sort of specific, you're not going to be going into the Irish Sea with a barge.
Well, good point.
You might be going across an inlet or a river or something, or up a river, or it may be even around the edge of a bay, but you wouldn't go in deep into the Irish Sea on a barge, would you?
No. Quite well.
Anyway, that was all I had on them.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and I added this in for effect, really, just to
Oh
give
yeah, lovely.
another depiction of kind of the Avalon witches being depicted here. We've got more than three maidens doing healing. We've got all sorts of people here. So yeah,
Nice. Edward
yeah,
Burne-Jones. I'm just gonna. Do you know what sort of time he was?
pre-Raphaelite, I think.
Pre-Raphaelite. Okay. Oh yeah, of course. They did a lot of Arthurian stuff,
Yeah,
didn't they?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Fascinating. Cool.
So yeah, I just wanted to talk obviously about the Isle of Apples in world myth, right?
Mm.
So you've got, going back to Joseph Campbell, he talks about Hesperides, which is a Greek equivalent essentially of an island surrounded by a cosmic snake, being the ocean, with a island of golden apples, basically.
Mm.
So I had to throw that in there, and also of the obviously clear resonance with the Garden of Eden, and
Mm-hmm.
then I just, from that, having this a clear link with a Greek world and a Judeo-Christian world all at the same time, all wrapped up in one
Yeah.
motif,
Yeah.
which I think happens all the time when looking at this sort of thing.
Mm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, seen a really good Enlightened Turtle video where he's talking. There's a clear similarity between Hesperides and Hebrides
Oh,
as well.
didn't even think of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good video to watch. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's yeah, I'd never thought of that link between Avalon as well. I'd never put the two. Obviously, the apples, apples. Why didn't I think apples?
Mm, 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 mm. Right. Okay. And obviously I'll go back to what I was saying before. These four
Mm,
characters in history are the ones afforded the title Mad Darrigan. Right. And the interesting thing about this for me is, what do three of them have in common, which the first doesn't? And the answer to that is that all of the three guys in the bottom are from Gwynedd, or from
yeah.
the bloodline of Aberfrau and Anglesey,
Mm-hmm.
right? So just bear that in mind.
Cuneda, is that right?
Gwynedd Weledig, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. But also, I think what Dad was saying earlier, the other day, was that actually there was another line through the Lords of Ross and the Lords of Bryn Vernigel, who at some point had an injection of the Arthurian line through his grandson Cadrod,
Right.
because Ednivedvik, and this is the Lords of Bryn Vernigel, as they're kind of adjacent to the Lords of, they're the Lords of Ross, okay,
Right. Yeah.
adjacent to the Gwyneddian line.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So Ednivedvikan, who was a seneschal for the Kingdom of Gwynedd under Llywelyn ap Griffith, was basically that his rise to prominence was after a battle where he brought Llywelyn 4 decapitated heads of English knights.
Oh,
Right. So, and then was kind of
charming.
given this kind of high office, and he was the progenitor of the Tudor dynasty. But
Yeah. Do you know what? I think there's something about this in Gilbert actually, in Blood of
yeah,
Avalon. Yeah.
yeah, I had a quick look and had a look at the same thing probably, but so so the thing is with that is that his father Kendrick, he claimed descent from Cadrod, who was the grandson of Arthur ap Moiric. So
Oh, right.
at some point that line got grafted onto the North Walian,
Yeah.
the Lords of Ross, basically, and then that becomes a kind of Arthurian line in North Wales, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Which is worth bearing in mind. And
Do you know whose son Cadrod was?
I can't remember. Can't remember.
I know it's sort of semi conjecture as well a lot of the time. So
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, yeah.
uh, I've been interested in Morgan a lot recently, because we've got a number of places of St Morgan's in Devon and Cornwall,
Okay.
and
Right.
and it's it's not clear whether St Morgan is a different person or not. It's not obvious. Um, but yeah, sorry, that was just a little aside.
Mm,
Yeah,
that's cool.
really
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, there's loads of Morgan place names of churches, loads of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Brilliant.
and Morgan was seemed to be equally as loved as Arthur. Like he's got, he's one of the um in the triads, one of the leader of a ferocious host or something, and obviously he's remembered as generous and stuff like that. So it's and obviously of a very important dynasty. So
Mm,
yeah, yeah. Anyway, carry on.
yeah.
No.
Right. So we know that Arthur is carted off in some way to Avalon after Camlan. Okay, a lot of the things that a lot of the historians say is that we can't find a Camlan, but there we go. There it is. Obviously, those videos, those great videos between Ross and Lawrence Main having
Yeah,
conversations at Camlan, really great stuff.
they were fantastic. They really
Yeah,
were. And like, there just seems to be a like a knowledge in the place. Like he was, there's like little slates with stuff written on it. People know that that's Camlan. The people who live in Camlan know it's the site of Camlan.
yeah, of course, absolutely. Yeah,
It's not.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like there's so much in Wales itself. There's so much folk knowledge that it
Mm.
just is not tapped in. It's not, you can't read in a book. It's
No,
there, and it's fantastic that it's there.
yeah,
Brilliant.
absolutely.
But this place Camlan is at the foot of the Snowdonia National Park. It's in North Wales. It's in Gwynedd.
Yeah.
And when I said, like, I was looking at Barber and Pickett and the criteria they were setting for Avalon, right? And they say it's in this place over here, right, which is closer to here than South Wales, but they're down here in Bardsey Island,
Bardsey, yeah.
small island with monastic settlement and apple trees, and I really think that's not a bad shout at all.
No.
It's totally fair enough to make that call.
How many saints are meant to be buried on
Well,
Bardsey?
I don't know. Do you know?
Isn't it meant to be thousands? Like no,
Wow.
literally. I'm
Right.
sure there's. Maybe this is just. I'm probably just making this up completely. Someone else can tell us probably, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there's meant to be a lot. Um,
Well,
yeah, I've certainly heard that about Bardsey, but I could be completely wrong. Maybe I'm just having those funky dreams again, Adam.
when you're into this stuff, it happens, mate. It's part of the course.
Going the full Lawrence.
Yeah, absolutely. We were saying earlier that if we go to one of his walks, I think we hope we come out as
Oh yeah,
Master Dreams.
yeah,
Dream.
bigger beards, long,
Yeah.
shorter shorts,
Yeah. 100%.
but full of knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But this thing for me is a very interesting element to why I'm arguing for it being Holyhead, right?
Yeah.
Holyhead, the Holyhead.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place remembered by the Roman historians as being a place where the Druids were centralized. Okay, it makes sense to me that this is a very significant holy island, or it's two islands, set of islands. So the thing is that one of the things which gets me to lean towards Holyhead is the presence of this place here, Tree Arthur Bay. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a memory in the a memory in the place name of an arrival of Arthur. That's usually how bays are named, isn't it? It's the arrival of, that I live next to a place called Saxon Shore, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You've got an arrival of an Arthur here, quite possibly, and up to this spelling of it is actually, it could be a modern name, a modern retelling of it, and I'll show you why. Because thanks to Richard Roberts, who put this on I think it was Monica Escobar's page. This is an Ordnance Survey, 1888 of Anglesey and Holyhead, and you've got Trey Arthur Bay being spelled Trey Arthur, so it's a clear reference to Arthur there.
Absolutely.
So
fantastic.
Yeah. And the second thing, going back to the map quickly, is the amount of places in the area, and there's more. There's only a couple of places, but it's the Ross, name that you get everywhere. I made a short list of the ones I could see on the map. I've got the map out, and this is a reference to the Lords of Ross, and Ross is understood as a kingdom, an early North Walian kingdom that predated Gwynedd, basically, and predated Cynedda Weledig, who came down to expel the Irish, and establish land there. But the styling of the lords of Bryn Van Eigel was that they took the name of Ross, remembering the older name there, remembering the older name in the area.
Okay.
And Bryn Van Eigel is it's east of Anglesey, and there's places called Ross all over Wales. Actually, I used to live in Swansea, and the Gower has got a place called Rossilly there, and it is an allusion, and that's linked with Uri and Reged.
Really?
Yeah. So you've got this collection of names in Anglesey called Ross, alluding to the Lords of Ross and the bloodline of Ross. And you could argue that Ross, it means, there's a couple of ways you can interpret Ross in Welsh. You've got Ross as in moorland, okay? We've also got Rossin, which is the rose. Okay.
Rose. Ah, right. Okay. Right. Yeah.
So we go to the bloodline of the rose. So, yeah, Edna Vedvikan, who I was talking about earlier, claimed descent from Marchid ap Cynan, Lord of Ross. But that Lord of Ross, when you look at different genealogies, it will say the Lord of Bryn Van Eigel. So you've got this. Sometimes they claim this Ross mantle or Rose mantle, right? Obviously, being he's the ancestor of Owen Tudor, the Tudor dynasty, etc. And obviously, I spoke earlier about Edna Vidvikan claiming descent from Kendrick. Claiming descent from Cadrod, the grandson of Arthur of Moyrig.
Yeah.
And we know, we understand, certainly in a lot of kind of New Age spheres today, the bloodline of the rose is an allusion to Mary Magdalene and the Arthurian thing there. So you've got that kind of thing going on as well.
Yes, so, this is very fresh in my mind, just having read Adrian Gilbert's Blood of Avalon.
Brilliant.
Yeah, very, very fresh in my mind. So I'm following you, even if no one else is.
Thanks, mate.
Got you back.
So yeah, but you've got this rose line motif, okay, but then you've so to bring it back full circle, I guess, the rose and the apple are in the same botanical family. Are they? Is that right?
Ah,
You
interesting.
see what I mean?
Yeah.
So you've got this island of the rose and this
Mm.
island of apples, and there's a kind of
Mm.
there's a familial link there, talking about maybe an Edenic legacy and line existing in Avalon, but also a family of the rose in which the Tudors became the Rose of England, didn't they? So
Yeah.
it all ties in for me. I'm just giving my interpretation.
Well, yes, especially like one thing that Gilbert points out is that really pretty coloured grafted roses came back from the Middle East after the Crusade, and the roses in England were the white dog roses. There wasn't really much else. However, at that time in England, we would have had hundreds, if not thousands, of difference of apple species.
Yes.
And some of them would have been, I imagine, just like cherries jumped out at me. Cherry trees are grown either for the fruit or for the blossom. Just for the beauty of the blossom.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love dog roses. I think they're lovely. But yeah, the idea that you're talking about the apple blossom as well as the fruit of the apple, I think that's really interesting. That's cool.
Cool. I'm glad you like that bit. I thought you might.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I guess to round up, that is my current. That's where I'm at the moment for looking at Avalon. Understanding Avalon as a place which, as Joseph Campbell says, has a mythological and sort of subjective reality which is projected onto geographical locations,
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Which has happened in Glastonbury, and is very much part of the Glastonbury cult. I do believe Glastonbury somewhere special. Is it Avalon? Don't know, but
Yeah, yeah.
you know
See,
what I
this
mean?
is so that's actually when it mentions Joseph of Arimathea, it wasn't actually him living there, was it? It's him. He was
Mhm.
sent to. He died. That was buried there.
Yeah,
So this idea that even if you think Glastonbury is Glastonbury and in Somerset, surely it shouldn't be Avalon because that Glastonbury is the place he lived and had his mission or whatever. And and Avalon is where he went to die. So
yeah,
that would not make sense that Glastonbury Tor is the Isle of Avalon. That wouldn't make sense. And also, from what I've heard, I don't think there's any burials in Glastonbury Tor, and it's not something you want to try and dig a hole in and bury people in anyway.
no,
My only problem with that is though that I think that at least some of it looks man-made. It's an absolutely weird hill. It's so odd, and because of the coincidences all along the Michael line there of big hills, I
yeah,
think some of them are not hills and are at least augmented by people, even if there is like a natural bump there or something. I think, and Glastonbury Tor is certainly one that looks man-made somehow. But that would have been done thousands of years, I think, before Arthur. If that
yeah,
was done, I think that's much more ancient. I think, uh,
yeah,
but yeah, so I think that's something that Gilbert does in Blood of Avalon, is he tries to draw together the place names for Glastonbury and Avalon and put them in one area in Wales, which is sort of the area just south of Mynyddig
yeah,
and Caer Caradoc, and St Peter's. It's like basically St Peter's Church to Conwy Castle, I think it is. And they reckon he thinks one of the streams was called the Aber Glass, which became Glastonbury. But I think he calls the area Avalon as well. I can't remember what his argument for that is now, and I won't be able to find it. So I'm just going to have to leave you all hanging on the edge of your seat there. Um, but yeah, I think that's possibly a bit of an error, maybe to try and link the two together.
yeah. Yeah.
I think maybe they are two different subjects to research. Where is Glastonbury? Where is Avalon? I think they're two distinct.
I agree. I totally agree with that. Yeah, it's yeah, it's kind of like it becomes a focal point for for incorporating a lot of the British mythos in one place.
Mm,
It's kind of cram it all in almost.
yeah.
Um,
Well, if Glastonbury is a theme park,
well, yeah,
a medieval Arthurian theme park,
that's a great way to put it.
come see the grave, come see the Isle of
Yeah,
Avalon, get it all in one,
yeah, yeah. I didn't talk about so much about. I mean, the
I like how you stuck to Avalon. To be honest, that's why. No, seriously, because
Thanks.
because I think that's if you're investigating Avalon, that's what I'm trying to say. That's where you should go because I think maybe that bringing where Glastonbury is and Glastonbury is just is maybe a not the way to go to look into that.
No, no. What you're saying is along the same lines as that I'm thinking, which is Avalon is not the same.
No.
For me, it's not the same thing. But
So can we have a look at maybe one of those old maps of Anglesey again?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Go for it. Yeah. So thanks to Richard Roberts for that.
Oh yeah, fair. So where does even the name Anglesey come from?
Um.
Do
Oh
you
God,
know?
I don't know. Um.
I just remembered what you said about an angle. And
Right. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm not claiming. Well, it's coincidental, and
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. No, it's
if you believe in coincidences,
yeah,
there is a
sometimes.
link. There is a crossover,
Yeah,
and
correspondence, yeah.
got some sort of correspondence, which to me, just sent me a notification, which was like,
Yeah.
boom,
Can
there's
we
an
have a look?
actual
Sorry, can we
angle.
have a look at slide 13, that map on there?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Can we
This is
get closer on
Holyhead.
it? Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is Holyhead also like its own island anyway as well?
Yeah, yeah, it's his own island. Yeah,
All right, fair.
yeah,
So this is actually comes up with a lot of things. I've been looking at a Leoness, which is the name of the mythical islands, Cornwall, which are associated with Avalon.
oh, right.
But in the Isles of Scilly, it's possibly on at one point. Um,
Breaking up there, Pete.
yeah, sorry, yeah, I just saw that then. Um, sorry, the Isles of Scilly were,
Yeah,
were were possibly one island up until relatively. It's one of those things. There seems to be a connection with the sixth century, much like Cantref Gwaelod,
yeah.
but then the scientists are like, nah, it sank under the water thousands of years ago.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
But even on the Wikipedia page, it says like the Central Plain flooded in the fifth, sixth century.
Oh, right.
Like what? Like really? As recently as that? That's fascinating. But I don't know. It seems to be a bit different. But it also brings me around to this idea of like the Phoenicians and their trading ports. Phoenicians like these little islands to build their cities on and things like that. They're famous for it, and they did it in the Middle East, in Spain, and um, obviously the early tin stories of trading in Britain. The Phoenicians traded with the locals on tidal islands, so there's
Yeah,
always been a connection with oh God, what do they call it? St Michael's Mount. And I've talked about Ichthys before, and I said it could be St Michael's Mount. It could be Bute, an island off Bude. It could be Burr Island. It could be the Mountbatten Peninsula off Plymouth.
yeah,
And I'm starting to come to the idea as well that it's actually all of these places. Like
yeah,
you just went to your nearby, you went to the one that you went to, but they did the same. They used the same sort of places in order to do that sort of business.
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. Makes sense.
but it means that these islands have already got like ancient history before
Mm.
the time of the saints, and like Holyhead and Anglesey, as a whole, all fit this pattern of these islands that are just broken off the coast. They are separated out, but they're not, necessarily difficult to get to or anything like that. Or, low tide, you can get there easily. These like liminal areas. And I think that's really, really interesting.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so Fana is another one.
Yeah, absolutely. The Isle of the Dead.
Yeah.
The Isle of Thanatos.
Yeah. So
it's got when you go there, it does feel like that, I can say that because I live in Kent.
Yeah.
And I think I don't blame Vortigern for giving it away. I'm just
Yeah, I have that bit. So one thing that comes up as well, one of these common things that I found people repeat over and over again is when they talk about the early explorers, they say, so one description says that he talks about the southeastern peninsula and says it's called Cantai or something like that, or Cant. And that is, we would still take that to mean the entire Kentish peninsula.
Okay, yeah.
We wouldn't be talking like a little bit of it, would we?
Yeah.
We think of, even think of where the Cantai took up as a tribal area, even when the Romans were there. We sort of think about that sort of area. But then when they talk about the southwest and they talk about the peninsula being called Balerion, they just say it's just Penwith, the bit that Land's End's on.
Right.
But surely they're talking about the entire southwest, like you were talking about the entirety of Kent. If you're talking about,
yes,
but everyone always says, "Oh, it's this bit," and St Michael's Mount is Ictus. But really, if you're talking about Balerion, you could be talking about all of the Devon coast, all of the Cornish coast, and that entire peninsula could have been called Balerion, and therefore your island of Ictus could have been any one of those tidal islands. That's all the way down the coast. And if you're mining tin on Dartmoor, you're not going to transport it to St Michael's Mount to sell it. You're going to take it to the Mount, probably to the Mountbatten Peninsula in Plymouth, which has got Bronze Age trade.
Yeah, of course.
And Burr Islands down the River so that's the one I keep on going about. That goes down. Oh, where else has led me?
Where who?
Or as in, so I was looking at because of Armel and because it's one of our tinning rivers and stuff.
Yeah.
Is also quite similar to Orm.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course Orm is like worm. It's a dragon.
Yeah.
It's cool. Especially if you're thinking about mining anyway. And forging metal, dragon. This is all sort of conjures images, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. And
yeah,
I was led that in a really weird way because the French use the word orme for elm trees.
Okay.
And both the word elm and orme, the French orme, I think it was orme, both come from this same sort of Proto-Indo-European root, or apparently invented Proto-Indo-European.
Yeah, whatever that means.
Yeah. You just sort of blurred these words together, so it probably sounds like that.
Yeah.
So that was a sort of a weird little synchronicity I had. But I think that was really fantastic. I really enjoyed that. Thanks, Adam.
That was great. Yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks, mate.
Fantastic. I'll hope to finish putting together some stuff, and I'll do a little presentation soon. And hopefully, I've got someone, maybe our first guest, who's been doing a lot of archaeoastronomy work with the Thornborough Henges and the Devil's Arrows, and it's really cool stuff.
Brilliant. God, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'll get that organised soon.
Yeah, great stuff. Okay.
Great.
Well,
we sign off?
If you're watching, thank you very much.
Yeah, cheers, folks. Correct.
This one.